I titled this one "Discovering Passion." Question mark. I did that because I don't know. It's a weird thing, like how people talk about passion, how people talk about you need to find your passion. I just find it interesting how it's such like I want to say it's a cliche thing that we say and that we talk about. My camera is not holding right now. Let's fix that right there. Okay. It's such a cliche thing that people say, and it's also like a standard, I feel, at the same time. Like, yeah, if you're not living your passion, you're so unhappy, or you gotta, you just gotta go find what you're passionate about. I bring it up because I feel like I've had this conversation so many times in my life, so many different aspects of my life about, being passionate, finding your passion. And I feel like I always run into the same problem, the same question, which is, what passion are we talking about? Or passionately, what are we talking about? Because the thing about it is that there's a lot of different quote unquote definitions of passion that we talk about. There's a lot of different understandings about what passion is. And I think that I've had some time to break this down in my life. Not to say that I'm the guru that knows everything about passion, but I just got some things to say on the topic about it. Before we get started, just so you know, the reason that I do these things live is because as I jot down ideas and perspectives, if you could see it, I just operate better if there's people around, so I can freestyle it, but at the same time talk with a sense that there's somebody there, and it keeps me accountable at the same time. So I do them live, and then I don't edit them. I take them and I'm going to put them on YouTube as something consistently. I have another camera here that I'm recording that you can always go back to, refer to, and just, keep on learning along with me. Again, these things are not things that I'm the guru and the professional, but these talks really are me figuring out life as I go through life. And I feel like that's the role of any teacher, really, is not necessarily to have the answers, but just ask questions. And as we ask questions together, that's really what it comes down to. So yeah. All right. So it's so weird. I'll start with this. Growing up as a dancer what's up, Crazy C? Growing up as a dancer for the longest time, I've always had this understanding since I was a teenager that I'm passionate about dance, right? I've been dancing since I was 14 years old. And over time, that's just the understanding that you walk with throughout your life. But then when I was 20, 21, something like that, I was in a car accident and I got injured really badly and I wasn't able to dance. So then what do you do when that passion isn't there? Meaning, like, I wasn't able to dance, like I wasn't able to perform, I wasn't able to compete, I wasn't able to practice. Like, what do you do when that happens? Like, what do you do when what you believe you're so quote unquote passionate about is taken away from you? Do you fight so hard to regain that? How patient do you have to be? How long does that take? And it became a very confusing thing for me because there were times in my life where I wasn't really sure if I wanted to necessarily walk back to this quote unquote career or journey as an artist in dance in the same capacity that I once did. Now, as a dancer, I always say that dance is my life. It's my lifestyle. The same way if you go to somebody's house and they're playing a certain type of music, you may not be a professional whatever dancer, but it just resonates with you in such a way because it's just what it is. It's home. For me, this is how I grew up. So I'm always going to be a dancer at the sense of a core. Now, passionately taking that on as a career, I think that's something that's really important for people to talk about. We'll get into a little bit more about passion itself in a little bit, but what I want to express is that it's totally fine to do something that you really love to do and also at the same time not make that your career. That's really tough for people to hear sometimes. It's a tough pill to swallow. Being able to do something because you just enjoy doing it and then also saying to yourself, I can care less if I make money. Because we have this weird thing in our society. I don't want to use that language. We have this weird thing within our generation that whatever you love and you can't stop thinking about it, you got to make this your career and you got to make money with it. But I do want to say that dance is something that I'm passionate about. It's who I am, but it's not my career. And I'm totally fine with that. It's taken me a very long time to get to that place, but it's totally okay. I could still like it. I could still love it. I could still enjoy it. I could still pursue it, grow, progress in it, but I don't have to make it my career. And that's really important. A lot of people have never really heard that. They believe that whatever they're passionate about has to be what they do every single day of their life, professionally, to make money. I still dance almost every day, but I don't do it professionally to the extent that now this is how I make my money, how I pay my bills. I have the luxury that at times I can make money with it, but it's not necessarily my career choice. It's just something that I do passionately. Now that makes like a really big question on, is passion something that we should be making our careers? And if it's not your career, are you still passionate about it? Are you able to have a career and also be passionate about something? Split brains, split ideas. How does that work, right? Growing up, because I'm a dancer, I love music. And I got into DJing because I really love digging and finding and searching for music. And then I got to a place where I just didn't want to DJ in certain environments. I didn't want to make DJing my career. I still DJ. Actually, one of the first things I do when I wake up is I wake up and I put on my CDJs, my Pioneer CDJs, and I select music and I hit play, because I use the USBs, I hit play, and I spin for maybe a couple minutes. Oh, then let me put this song on while I'm drinking my coffee. I do this probably every other day. And I still love DJing for people. Now, is this my set career that I do? No. But I can still do it as my life, and I still enjoy it. So this really makes this question. What's up, Brad? I see you. Makes this question is that if passion, something that you're passionate about, does it have to be your career? If it's not your career, are you truly passionate about it? And there's a blurred line, and I want to say this. This answer does not have to be your very thing that you can't like sleep over, that you lose sleep over. Because I'm at this place where I realize what passion is, and there's a big difference between passion and truth. Now, if you look it up, Wikipedia, actually, I don't have my computer in front of me. Somebody look it up and put it in the whatever. The definition of passion, I believe it's a strong emotion, right? And I think that's important to know, because passion, if it's an emotion, emotions are fleeting. They come and they go. You could be passionate about something, but that still is an emotion. It's here, and yes, it's here. And at times you're very lucky that you could take these two things and you can piece them together, and yes, quote unquote passion. But to be passionate about something, also to understand that comes and it goes. So what happens when it goes, right? Was it strong and barely controllable emotion, right? This is really important, because an emotion is not something that is truly consistent all the time. So do you make your passion your rest of your life? I mean, what if it's there and what if it isn't? Think about relationships. When you're ever with somebody or you've met somebody, you meet them in a moment and you feel really strongly about them, right? It's hard to control. It's almost like an urge, or it's an itch you got to scratch almost, right? But then there's times when it's not. And if you base your relationship off of that emotion, you're going to have a lot of trouble keeping the consistency of the relationship. It's going to go up and down. Relationships do go up and down, but you can't set the foundation of your relationship purely on passion, because it's an emotion. It comes and it goes. So am I passionate about music? Absolutely. But sometimes, straight up being honest, I have times where I just like to nerd out and read comic books. And I'll just do that for a week. I won't even listen to music. Does that make me less of an artist, right? I mean, you have to think about just because I'm not immersing myself into something doesn't necessarily mean I don't care about it. So again, redefining passion, I think, is really important. So there's a difference between passion and truth. And I'll give you an example within the idea of truth. When my son was born, I cannot give you words to describe or to measure how much I love my son. I can't. I don't even, poetically, it's hard. You start using weird talk like they're just another part of me, right? Like, that's not like literally true. It's like I've known them for eternity, right? You just start using language that makes no sense. But that's a truth that it doesn't matter where I am, where he is. It doesn't matter if I'm alive or if I'm dead. That connection is just true. It just is. If I was to tell you why I love my wife, there's so many aspects about that relationship. It's not just based off of, well, she turns me on. Well, she's attractive. Well, she likes anime like I like anime, right? I mean, those are interests. There's a lot of interest. And there's things that together we could be very interested in. We could be very passionate about. But I think it's really important to also know and to state that we can't base our relationship off of that. There's just an underlying truth, which for me is that I can get really emotional talking about it because it's we had this talk the other night and I got really emotional talking about it. But there's something about when she walks into the room that the butterflies in my stomach just take flight. I can't explain it, like physiologically, biologically. I don't know. It's just a truth. It just is. So would I say I married her because I'm passionate about her? I'm with her because it's a truth that I can't undo it. It's a truth that just is undeniable. So when you start talking about things like that, that's a different concept of connection versus I'm so passionate about something. I almost want to take passion and now just start almost like devaluing it in a sense, right? But no, passion is important. But this is what we're taught. We're taught so much. Be passionate. If you're not passionate about something, you're not real. And I'll be straight up. I think a lot of this actually comes from hustle culture. I'm from New York, so I'm all about the hustle. But sometimes hustle culture overemphasizes the idea of passion without ever really knowing what the fuck passion is, right? And that's something that I think is really really true to an artist, because we as artists, in whatever form that may be, we base so much of our life off of what we're passionate about. But what if you based your artistry off of what is just true, what just is? And this is where we start really changing a little bit on the interior furniture, realistically, on how we view things. You could be interested in a lot. You can like doing things like in such a way that, oh my gosh, it's uncontrollable, as the definition would say, right? You can do all those things, but you don't have to base your life on it. You could still do them, love them, and enjoy them, and it doesn't have to be your career. I know people that have careers and they're not passionate about it, they're just careers. Now, that's not to say they're happy or unhappy. They probably live their life very happily. They just also understand that a business is a business. There's a lot of different paths to take. So I want to backtrack a little bit. If we're going to be talking about discovering your passion, let's take the increments, okay? Like the small ingredients, bit by bit, pieces by pieces. Let's say you're the individual that's like, I don't know what I'm passionate about. The thing about passion is that we describe it as this thing that's like this fire in your heart and it burns and it just, you just feel it when you're around it. But what happens if you just don't feel that? Right? Sometimes, even in relationships, it's an acquired taste, right? It's something that you build a relationship with. And over time, it hits you like something, wow, how did I live without this? How was I living my life without this person? How did I live my life without my son, right? Like you start, but those things are building blocks, right? And it doesn't always just hit you right away. That truth doesn't hit you right at the beginning in the introduction. So there's this old saying that I used to love to say, which is, curiosity is the whisper of your calling. A lot of times we look at passion as something that is just like, it has to be this world-changing thing. But what if it just lies in a small dose of interest, right? Curiosity. I don't know, that person is just curious, right? It just makes me curious about them. Oh, I experienced this one thing today, and I don't know, I'm just curious about it. What if you followed your curiosity more often than trying to just find your passion? Like, you get a headache over finding what you're passionate about, right? Now, again, backtracking for me, growing up as a dancer, I've always believed that I was just so passionate about dancing. And while that is true, that statement in its entirety is also false. There's aspects about dance culture that I'm really curious about. There's aspects of dance culture that I'm really interested in that does make me feel alive. But as a whole, it is not necessarily the full picture on what really makes me come to life in discovering the quote-unquote passion. Growing up, I also did martial arts, and I was big in martial arts since I was 5 years old. 5 years old all the way to 18, 19 years old, I was competing. My life was competition, and I did it. I worked hard. I did it passionately. I it's something that I can say that in doing so, I can understand certain aspects of my life differently because of the discipline and the training that I've done. Am I passionate about martial arts if I'm not doing it later on in life, so quote unquote passionately? That's a tough one, right? And this is one of the things I want to bring up is we live as we get older so much in the past. Oh, I used to feel this way. Oh, this person made me feel this way. Or I remember when I was doing this was my happiest. And you start living in this past tense reality, and as you get older, you start to like feel shame for not feeling the same way towards those things. You start to feel like bad, or you let the world make you feel bad for not practicing or doing something the way that you used to do it. And maybe I want to kind of present the question to you. Maybe what you were doing wasn't necessarily what you were truly passionate about. Maybe it was an aspect about it that you were passionate about. When I wrote this down on my phone, but I'm using my phone. Let's see. When I was dancing very heavily, one of the things that I really loved was performance, being in front of a crowd and getting, the oohs and the ahs, but also the inspiration that you can exchange in a moment to people around you. When I was DJing, one of the things I loved was this moment, this long journey that you would take as you would DJ, and there's just one moment where people just experience euphoria, and they experience this like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm on this earth moment. And they release and they let go, and it just changes the rest of their week. I used to love that moment. But even in that aspect, maybe it was not necessarily DJing. Maybe it was an aspect about DJing itself. When I was pastoring and I would hold a mic and I would give these sermons, I really enjoyed speaking. I loved creating ideas and communicating the same way that I would be doing now. I think there's always like an inner pastor within me. But then within that, was it pastoring that I was passionate about? Or maybe it was something else. And I realized that it was more or less the performance and the craft. Photography, there was aspects that I really learned a lot about the craft of photography. And in doing so, I thought that it was the imagery. But over time, what I learned is that it was the communication that you have with your audience. As people see a picture and they go, wow, something about that moves me, right? Something about this photo, I don't know, I feel like I'm in that world. I feel like that represents my life. It's the exchange that you have with your audience. Filmmaking, I've been doing filmmaking since I was a teenager as well. And, are you passionate about filmmaking? Or maybe it's an aspect of filmmaking. And at the end, for me, I truly believe that films are the very thing that can move an individual's soul and inspire them to live a different life or inspire them to take action. It's a story. What do all these things have in common? And this is for me. For me, it comes down to performance, communication, and craft. I'm passionate about craft, like the study of craft. Let's take passion out of it. I'm highly interested and intrigued and moved in the idea of craft. When somebody has to learn something, the history, the documented history, what does it mean to them personally? For me, that's the art of it. It's taking something and learning it from the ground up and then internalizing it and then expressing it. But it's done in such a formulated way that you're like, wow, that's a craft. There's techniques. There's also self-discovery. It's an art form in such a way of how you express it, but that art form is influenced by the very environment that you're in, the history that you come from, the history that the art form has come from. A craft is absolutely beautiful. And that's one thing I loved about DJing, dance, martial arts. All these things are crafts. They're arts, right? But then in performance, everything had its aspect of performance. And I didn't realize this until maybe I was on this set and on a movie set, a film set, and I was a director. I've been working on behind the camera for quite some time now, and I asked my talent to do something, and she couldn't really understand what I was asking her. So I was like, oh, let me show you. And then I did it. I might have told you this story before. And then I did it, and then she said, you're pretty good on camera. Have you ever thought about going on the other side of the camera? And I said, I never thought about it. I mean, I'll give it a shot. I like performing. And I started practicing the craft and learning it, and my world turned upside down, and I fell so in love with the craft of acting. But again, it had something, it had a couple of things that resonated with me: performance, communication, and craft. Because in the art of acting, you are not just practicing the art of communication, you're changing and personalizing the art of communication. So when I was pastoring, I loved the art of communication, how you can take a word, an idea, break it down, teach it, pass it on, how I can learn to get people to understand something before I even actually say it, between how I go about it, how I can story tell, and how those stories move an individual. That's what creates change. That's what inspires people. So for me, communication, craft, and performance, or maybe the other way around. Those are those things that started resonating with me through all these crafts. So whatever it is that you do, I'm not taking away your joy and your love to do it, especially if it's dancing. Dance for the rest of your life, because there's going to be a day where you can't. And I've experienced those days already where I just couldn't dance. So I know now I'm going to dance as long as my body can allow me to dance. But I also know in that same statement that it's not just dance. It's something about dance, within dance, that allows me to feel alive. And that's what is important to focus in. So again, curiosity is the whisper of your calling. And we overemphasize calling so much. What are you called to do? What's your calling, right? I mean, I get it. But sometimes the overemphasis of it, and sometimes that overfocus of it, you might be missing the very little things that just whisper to you, that, I don't know, speak to you in maybe a more subtle way. And I'll tell you just like this, if we backtrack a little bit, that's the difference between passion and truth. When I'm around people that I really truly care about, I don't have to be like, oh man, it's my best friend, I love this guy, right? I'm not over animated when I'm around them. I'm just with them in silence. Love this guy. I love this girl. He's my family. It just is. Sometimes passion can be overexerted and it can be overperformed. Like, I'm so passionate about this, but maybe just take a second and just, what calms you down? When you feel alive, that's why we say, what's in your heart, right? Because the heart pumps blood, okay, so it keeps you alive. So passion at times is an understanding of that. What makes you feel alive? But in feeling alive, sometimes that doesn't always mean adventurous. Sometimes we understand passion as just adventurous. I love being adventurous, especially being a dancer, diving into the unknown, going into a circle you have no idea, traveling somewhere, competing against people you don't know, all that stuff. That is such a joy as a dancer. But there's something that is just true about it. It's an art form that is personal. It's a craft. It's a craft that I can keep and hold on to, and I can personalize that. And within that, there's also a form of communication within it. I'm communicating with physical movements to people, and it resonates a certain way because as you see it, especially in performance. So you start to, you start to realize that there's little things or certain genres and topics within those things that you do that maybe there's a bigger picture. One thing that I think is also really important is to know whatever you are, you're much more than what that is. Like I always tell dancers, like you are a dancer, but you're also much more than just a dancer. That's important to know. You're capable of so much. That's not to devalue what dance is. That's not to devalue what you're currently involved in. That's not to devalue any of that. But it is to open an avenue and a door and hopefully let you see that there's just so much more. Wow, that was a quote. That was a rhyme that I didn't even realize was coming. That was fantastic. Curiosity is the whisper to your calling. Pay attention to those little whispers. Sometimes it's just the curiosity more than it is the big fire and passion that you think that is. Okay, let's break something else down. This one's a little bit more technical, so to speak. Let's just say you're a numbers person. It's called the 33% rule. Other people explain it in various ways. I would say the 33% rule is like a formulated way to possibly figuring out what you can do with your life. I'm not even going to say passion. I'm not going to say career, just what you could possibly do. 33%, and then there's, which basically 3 times adds up to 99, right? Yeah, something like that. And then, it is. And then 1% is like, maybe not. I don't know, right? So it's 33% what you're experienced in, 33% what you're interested in, like what you nerd out about, and then 33% what you dream about. So take those 3 things, make a little circle-gram, whatever it's called, and write them out and see what fits in those areas. So 33% of what you're experienced in, 33% of what you're interested in, and then 33% of what you dream about. Now, this is important because experience, when I say experience, I mean like shit that you've actually done. Meaning like, I used to work at Blockbuster, right? So I used to work at Blockbuster if you know what Blockbuster is. So I learned skills at Blockbuster, right? I learned like how to count money. I learned how to check things in. I learned customer service as an actual skill. I learned how to organize and alphabetize, right? Those are things that you learn. That's my actual professional experience, right? For some people, it's cooking. Some people, it's waiting. Some people, it's events. When I was younger, I used to MC. I used to DJ parties. That is actual professional experience, meaning I made money with that skill set. And skills are another topic, but the more skills you have, the more you can pull from. Okay, let's just keep it that way. So 33% of what you're experienced in, 33% of what you're interested in, meaning what do you nerd out about? Like, you just can't stop talking about it. You're always Googling it. You're on Reddit about it. You swipe and you stop on your feed. And you're like, oh, that's interesting, right? You're just always in it. Now, for me, I could say that what I'm interested in a lot of times is craft, like different aspects and techniques upon whatever craft that I'm currently involved in. But I'll also say storytelling. Storytelling itself is something that I absolutely adore, absolutely love. there's a craft in storytelling, but there's also something within storytelling that I'm just always interested in how people do it. Like whether it's someone on a microphone, whether it's someone making a film, whether it's somebody verbally telling a story. Something about it, I'm just always interested in how people do it. I find it so fascinating. And I think that's why I enjoy stories and reading them, whether it's like mangas, comic books, or even movies. It's just something about a story, how they took you on a ride to get somewhere. It's just an interesting, and at the same time, I'm always researching it. It's not even me. Like I'm not like consciously doing it. It's just something that's happening. And then the last one's something that you dream about, meaning like there's far-fetched ideas like, what if I could do this? Oh, I've always thought I could do this. When I was younger, because I watched a lot of Jackie Chan films, I wanted to be a CIA agent, and then I realized how smart you have to be, and that is not my occupation. But it was something I dreamed about, right? Like, so what did you dream about? So 33% of what you're experienced in, 33% of what you're interested in, 33% of what you dream about. Put those things together and boom. So I'll just take my 33%. Experience would be communication. I learned communication, like professionally learned communication, in like holding a microphone to reading something and presenting it out. I didn't realize it, but that's just something that I did. Even in teaching, I taught martial arts since I was 12 years old. That is a form of communication, learning how to take an idea, a lesson, and how do you communicate it to the world. What am I interested in? That for me was craft. I'm always interested in craft. That's what makes me, I guess you could say, a quote unquote hobbyist. I just love learning new things. I love taking something, but I don't just like learn it. I fucking learn it. Like I love taking it from its bare nothing and jumping into it, feeling extremely vulnerable and like a loser and a student, and just learning it from the ground up. I love that. And sometimes people are like, oh well, you become, you'll become a jack of all trades and a master of none. I don't believe any of that shit. I think that's like the worst form of teaching your children or anything. Like, go out and experience things, learn things, even if you're not going to do it professionally, because you're just going to have a skill set. Especially if you have a family, you're going to have more things that you know. Learn it, do it. Who cares if you make it a career later on? Like, be a hobbyist, be an interesting person. And to be an interesting person, you have to be interested in things, okay? And then what you dream about. What I always dreamt about when I was younger is performance. I love performance. Just seeing people perform, whether it's performing in dance, whether it's performing in speaking, whether it's performing on a television or in a movie. Performance is something I really dreamed of. So now when I put all these things together, now for me, it's craft, it's communication, and it's performance. Now I have options to pull from. That's what's really important. So the first way is a lot of floaty conversation, but this way it gives you a little bit of handlebars of what it actually could be, some things that you can work with and maybe start writing it out. But what's important is to know, like, you don't have to stay in one place. Sometimes what you're passionate about, it changes. Like you know how many people in the generation before us have changed careers and realized they're passionate about something else? They had like, you know, they have a law degree or they're a dentist, and then they realize, I'm just really passionate about recycling. I don't know. But, you know what I mean? That changes over time, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not necessarily the career. It's something about the career that makes you feel alive. That's what we're talking about. And again, it's not passion we're after. It's truth. That's what we're after. What is just true? What just is? And I'll close everything with this. My wife and I, we were talking the other night, and we were saying, you know, what if technology, we were cavemen or we had a small village, what would you do? Like, how would you provide a service to your community, your family around you? What would you do? And I literally said, for me, I would probably be the crazy person that after whatever we did that day would sit down with everyone and just tell the story of what happened. That's what I would do. I would be the guy in the cave, and I would be drawing it up or making the little whatever in the cave, and I would be saying, and then this guy did this, and then we did this, and then a bear came, and I don't know if it was a bear. It could have been a dragon. Might be real. And I would just be telling all these things. I could be funny. I could be deep. I can draw you in. I can pull you in. I can take a communication aspect of it, and I can play with that, and then I can perform it. And maybe if I need to dance, I can dance. Maybe if there's music to enhance the experience, even though. No, there was music back then too. I don't know. But this came to me in this idea that even if I had no technology around me, even if I didn't have all these ideas of careers, the truth that would be there is that I still have to tell a story. I still have to communicate. And within that, I have to find a creative way to do this. That is a truth. Doesn't matter what form it is. It could be in acting. It could be in dancing. It could be in music. But for me, I've come to this understanding of who I am and what I'm passionate about. But passion is not something that is a floaty emotion. It's just true. It just is. It's something that when I'm not doing it, I feel lifeless. But when I am doing it, I feel alive doing it. But that's not to take this like over idea of what passion is. It's just to really bring it down to this very humbling, graspable thing that is just inside of me and say, that just is. It's just true. The same way I love my son, the same way I love my wife, the same way I love my family. It's hard to explain. It just is. It's just true. So what is that for you? What is the thing that makes you feel alive? What is the thing that when you're not doing it, you feel lifeless? And if you're not sure, maybe it's the curiosity. Maybe it's just the things that you're curious about and you have to develop a relationship with it. The curiosity is the whisper to your calling. Maybe take a mathematical approach and do the 33%. Experienced in, interested, and dream about. What are those things? Put it together. Look at it, write it down. I have this board where I write stuff down on my desk. Maybe you need the boards like this that I have behind you. Write it down and just look at it. What speaks to you, right? And at the end of the day, all of this is experience. What do you experience that just makes you feel a certain type of way? That's what we're after. But it's not an emotion we're after. Emotions are fleeting. You can feel really good about something and then feel really shitty about it another day. But what just is? And what I've realized is that one of the things that has made me more sad within my life is not being able to communicate, not being able to share an idea, not being able to tell a story, not being able to perform. And those are the things that make me feel alive. And the more that I do it, the more that I really own who I am. And essentially what we're after is not to impress other people, to make money. And this is why I say take up the caveman idea. The caveman idea is not making any money. You're just serving the people around you with what you know to do to be true. So essentially what we're doing is just learning to accept ourselves. And if you can get to that place, that's why they say, if you're passionate, you'll never work a day in your life. But I want to rephrase it. I want to reframe it. If you just go with what is true, you'll live the most fullest life that you can. That's what's truly important. So, yes, I'm going to riff and raff. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I really enjoy doing these things, but I also feel like I do way better in the performance idea when it's alive. But again, these things will be up on the YouTube, youtube.com/Brendan Eldon. And that's where I just put all my content. I don't even have like a direction of content. It's just my life. Just sharing my life with you guys. That's what I really care about. Just bits and pieces and moments that mean something to me. It's all up on there. So go there, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff that, you know, YouTubers tell you to do. But at the end of the day, what I really want is to leave something behind for my family, because I love home videos. So I like when you can just sit down and watch home videos. But if I can also have this stuff, I can also leave this for my family and leave the ideas and the words and struggles and concepts that I've stumbled upon on there as well. And you guys are helping me do that, so thank you. So yeah, how to discover your passion, ... question mark. Yeah. Curiosity, 33% rule, and then finding what is true. And think of the caveman concept. I think it's a really good idea. Doesn't include money, it just includes service and finding what you would actually do in that scenario. Love you guys. I will talk to you very soon.